remember the sound first, the sharp thud, then the silence, then my son's scream, high-pitched and terrified, shattering through the brittle winter air. I dropped the dishcloth I was holding and ran, past the worn couch, past my father's cold stare, past my sister's smirking lips, and through the front door open. And there he was, my boy, 8 years old, his tiny body curled against the porch railing, one mitten gone, face bruised and red, shivering so hard I could hear his teeth clacking. His glasses were cracked, one lens completely gone, and blood on his lip, on the corner of his jacket, a streak across his cheek like someone had dragged a nail there. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. He was trying to hide it. He always tried to hide it, because he knew that showing pain in this house didn't get you help. It got you punished for being dramatic. I reached for him, arms shaking, voice breaking. What happened? Who? Before he could answer, I heard it. That voice I'd been running from since I was a child. My father. Don't fuss, he barked from behind me. Boys need to toughen up. He was mouthing off to your sister. Called her mean. My mouth went dry. And she punched him? Pfft, Dad snorted, picking at something between his teeth. He deserved to learn some manners. We don't raise disrespectful little rats around here. I stared at him, horrified. But worse than the words was the grin. He was proud of what happened. And my sister? She was still lounging on the recliner inside, sipping from a can of soda like it was just another Tuesday. Don't look at me like that, she muttered, catching my stare. He talks back, he gets smacked. It's simple. Maybe if you weren't raising such a brat, I wouldn't have to discipline him myself. My hands clenched. He's not your child. You don't touch him. Dad laughed. Well, someone has to raise him. Sure as hell ain't you doing it right. That's when my son finally stood up, legs wobbling, and pressed his face into my coat. He didn't speak. He didn't cry. Just pressed his body to mine like he was trying to disappear inside it. I wanted to scream, to fight, but I was so tired. Because this wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th. My son and I had been staying here for 3 months. After my ex-husband emptied our bank account and skipped town with a woman half his age, I had nowhere else to go. And my parents, the same people who called me a failure for becoming a single mom, were the only family I had left. They made me beg, made me sleep on the pullout with my son, made me clean their house, cook their meals, listen to my sister mock me every night while she showed off her new designer bags bought with the money they loaned her. But this was the line. I carried my son to the bathroom, cleaned him up while his eyes stayed hollow. Every time I touched a bruise, he flinched. I couldn't stop crying, but he didn't shed a single tear. I'm sorry, I whispered, wiping his face. Mommy's so sorry. Is it my fault? He asked quietly. I swear to God, something inside me shattered. No, never, not one thing. He nodded like he didn't believe me. Because why would he? I put him to bed, wrapped in every blanket I could find. Then I walked back into the living room. They were watching TV. Don't go soft, Dad muttered without looking at me. You spoil him, he'll grow up weak, like you. I stared at the back of his head. My sister gave me a side glance and rolled her eyes, and that's when it happened. That flicker, that small, sharp flicker of rage, of clarity, of something colder than anything I'd ever felt in my life. I said nothing, just turned, went into the kitchen and grabbed my phone, opened the Notes app, started typing, not a confrontation, not a scream, a plan, because I realized something that night. They were never going to stop. They were never going to love me or my son, not unless I became something they could control, shame, or brag about. And even then, they'd just bleed me dry. So I started watching, listening, remembering everything they ever said, everything they ever did. I stopped arguing. I played quiet. I thanked them when they insulted me. I acted like I was grateful, like I was learning. like I was finally understanding my place. But every night, when they went to sleep, I wrote, documented, calculated, because if they thought they could beat a mother into silence, they were about to learn what silence could really do. Over the next few weeks, I became exactly what they wanted me to be: quiet, grateful, obedient. I cooked their favorite meals before they even asked. I complimented my sister's hideous fashion choices. I nodded and smiled when Dad called me a parasite with mascara. I made it easy for them to ignore me while watching every move they made. I learned how my sister siphoned money from our parents without them even noticing. Petty cash, credit cards, bank transfers. I overheard her on the phone with her business partner, a man she was secretly dating while stringing along another one for free rent. I found Mom's notebook, the one she didn't think anyone could decode. It listed every loan she'd taken from relatives under my name. Relatives she told, "Oh, my daughter's struggling, poor thing. If you help her out, I'll make sure she pays you back." I had no idea I owed people over 600,000 rupees, because she'd pocketed it. But I didn't say a word, not yet, because something else was happening. My son had stopped speaking. Not entirely, but enough that it scared me. He stopped telling me about his drawings or his dreams or the tiny adventures he used to whisper to me in bed. He barely looked up anymore. When my father entered the room, he flinched automatically. When my sister laughed, he went rigid. I knew what that meant. He was fading. And if I stayed, I was going to lose him. So I got to work. I found a part-time night job at a bakery. The hours were brutal and the pay was a joke, but I didn't care. I told my parents I was going on evening walks to lose the stress weight. They laughed, said it was pointless, said I'd always be the fat, clingy one. But I kept going, every night, quiet, focused. The bakery's owner, Clara, was a widow in her 60s with the heart of a wolf. She saw through me immediately. "Tell me the truth," she said one night while I was cleaning the counter. "Who are you running from?" And for once, I told someone everything. About the wedding money, about the punch, about the porch, about my son shivering in the dark while my dad grinned from the couch. Clara didn't say much. She just nodded slowly. "Keep going," she said, "but don't disappear in your plan. Your boy needs to see you before they're gone." I didn't understand what she meant, not yet, but I would. 3 days later, my sister stormed in from the front porch and threw her purse at me. "You told Dad I borrowed his card?" I blinked. "No." "You did, you lying little—" Dad barked from the kitchen. "I said don't yell in my house." "Oh, your house? I pay more bills than she does," she screamed, pointing at me. "She's the leech, not me." It spiraled, fast. That night, my father slammed his fist into the wall beside my head and said, "You think you're smart? You think you're playing us?" I looked at him, really looked at him, this man who thought he owned me, who thought silence was weakness. "You already played yourself," I whispered, and I walked away. 2 hours later, while they slept, I packed our things. 2 backpacks, one for me, one for my son. I didn't leave a note, didn't slam a door, just disappeared. Because when you want revenge on people who feed on control, the best thing you can do is stop giving them the pleasure of watching you burn. I didn't vanish into nothing. I vanished into preparation. Clara let us sleep in the small office behind her bakery. It was barely more than a supply closet with a fan, but for the first time in months, my son slept without flinching in his dreams. He even whispered to me one night, "It doesn't smell like hate here." That broke me. I worked like a ghost during the day, bakery shifts, weekend cleaning jobs, data entry at night. I found a free legal aid service that helped me wipe my name from my parents' debt records. I had to appear in court once, without telling them. The lawyer smiled when the judge ruled that my mother had committed signature fraud. They had no idea, until the bank froze their joint account. I didn't lift a finger, I didn't call, I didn't warn. They showed up at Clara's bakery a week later, red-faced, yelling in front of customers. "You ungrateful brat! Do you know what you've done to us?" My son was behind the counter, frosting cupcakes. He stared at them like they were ghosts. "I'm calling the cops," Clara said, stepping between us. "Get out." But I wasn't done yet. I waited 3 more months. Then I sent them a gift. It arrived in a pale pink box wrapped in silk ribbon with a single white card inside. For the love you sold and the child you broke. Underneath it was a wedding album. No, not my sister's. Mine. A staged one. Photos I had paid for. Of me and my son, dressed in elegant clothes, standing in a sunny park, smiling like the world hadn't tried to ruin us. The final photo? My son holding a sign that read, "I survived without you." And tucked behind that photo was a copy of a notarized will. It stated clearly that every asset I had, every future income, every last rupee would go solely to my son, and never to the people who once called themselves family. I hadn't made much, but it was mine, and they could choke on their regret. 2 days later, my sister texted me, "That was low, even for you." I replied with a photo of my son eating ice cream on a bench, sunlight in his hair, joy in his cheeks. "Looks pretty high to me." She blocked me. Good, because revenge wasn't fire. It wasn't screaming. It wasn't even justice. It was leaving them with their own emptiness, while the person they discarded thrived without their names. Let them tell relatives I was nothing. Let them say I was a mistake, a disgrace. I didn't care, because the next time they say my name at a wedding, it won't be with pride. It'll be with shame. And silence. And that's louder than anything they ever said. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.